Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery, the best Cincinnati brewery you will find. I promise you that. Look, these guys have been going for a good long while over in the Columbia-Tusculum neighborhood, and they have quickly become sort of the experts, the absolute top of virtually any and every type of beer you can name. You need a New England IPA, they got you covered. You need an award-winning stout, they got you covered. They've got anything and everything in between. I had a green tea IPA once from these guys. Look, they're doing all sorts of unique, interesting work over at Streetside, and you've got to check them out. I absolutely love the tap room over there. It's a really great environment. It's a really great neighborhood. You got the local post right next door, and they always have a food truck out there. It's usually burgers. Actually, today on Monday, they have pizza. So check that one out. It's a really good time. You can check them out at 4003 Eastern Avenue. It's a really cool spot. I'm telling you, you got to get out there, check them out. And hey, when you're there, mention the postcast. They'll knock $1 off of your beer for just mentioning the postcast. So not a bad deal. Check out our friends over at Streetside, and thank you, Streetside, for sponsoring this episode. And on today's episode, we're rejoined by a great old friend for the entire episode. This is a good time. In part one, we're talking about the season that was. We're looking at this team as it stands now. Was this a successful season? It's a big question. It's a hard one to answer, I think, especially before the playoffs. And then in part two, we talk about NYCFC. It's the game tonight. We've got to win this one first off, but we've got to break this one down for you. I will say, if you don't know, Pat is a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and he was at the Bengals game over the weekend. So if you're not interested in hearing that, there are always timestamps down in the description to dodge, some conversations about games you don't want to relive. Otherwise, you put that all together, you got yourselves a nice little postcast. And joining me to talk about all of that, and I'm sure we'll get to more, I'm joined by the Chief, and I'm joined by Grayson, but that's not the highlight. The highlight here is that we are also joined by the Cincinnati Enquirer's Pat Brennan. Pat, how you doing this evening?
It's playoff time, baby.
Yes.
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing good. I mean, this is when the podcast really matters. The regular season, it's really dicey as to whether or not an MLS regular season podcast counts.
Yeah.
But playoffs, best of three is weird, but playoffs count more. So here we go.
Yep. I agree. This is when you got to come with it.
This is where you separate the people that know ball from the ball not knowers, as you were. Pat, you're looking a little sun today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have yourself a good Sunday afternoon?
It was okay. I'm not going to gloat. I noticed where I was today, there were some Philadelphians gloating. That's really not. Anytime I love going to road games for the teams I support in my personal life, but a convincing victory is always hard. It's hard for me to know how to posture because I guess I'm pretty introverted, and I don't know. I just can't bring myself to show the joy that I'm feeling inside. Not everyone has that problem, evidently. As I saw today, there were people in green gloating a lot. Just, I don't know, personal preference. I don't like to gloat, but I did get burned badly, and now that I'm seeing my face kind of in the camera for the first time, it's it's pretty shocking. So,
do you think that do you think that you might be at an advantage as a Philadelphia sports fan just because the reputation of Philly fans is such that I don't know that I would start a fight with a Philly fan if I was at like a sporting event? It's like a privilege almost that you have that you carry with you.
This is a really good prompt. I think not the opposite. What I observe, and I do observe this, is that because there's a reputation there, kind of, there's some cliches baked into that. Because there's a reputation, I think people are more eager to have a go and test.
They want to shout at the champ.
I don't know if it's not always the champ necessarily, but what's cooked into that stereotype. It's, that we're boorish, that we fight. And
through batteries at players, snowballs at Santa, jail in the stadium.
Exactly. Easy to hate. The Santa thing. And people just want to have a go so they can say, I went after a Philly sports fan. It wasn't so bad. Look at me. I'm tough too. So there's a ton of that. There's a ton of that. People were great today. I don't think the guy sitting behind me could comprehend that I actually did live and work in Cincinnati. And generally, I'm very intrigued by what the Bengals are doing. I go to many Bengals games. If it had been any other team, literally, in the NFL, like the Bengals, I would have been wearing white for the whiteout today, and I would have been on their side. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there that I could be wearing green, but also live in this metro area.
It does seem impossible, Pat.
Yeah. I had a usual suspects kind of moment today with the Philly fan.
Okay.
So I also was operating kind of, I think probably from not having thought about it very much, under the assumption that like the Philly fan was somebody who was like, like tough, had some bravado. But you hear the story about them having like the jail under the stadium, right? And it's like, they have the jail,
which is true.
They have the jail because they get caught because they're stupid. And I saw a tweet today that was retweeted by somebody who I'm not gonna name. We picked on this guy enough, but the tweet that I saw was from, I guess, like a Phillies writer or Eagles writer, whatever. The Eagles came here to the place where they put chili on top of spaghetti and found a sense of normalcy, right?
Yeah,
like that's the hardest they can go. Like this guy like felt like he did something, He's like, oh, there's like a tomato base,
shocking, like considering
meat
like
sauce
you could go after us for the
spaghetti.
fact that we put provolone on a sandwich.
That's weird.
Look, I can't be, the other thing is I wanted to distance myself from some of the behaviors today because I felt like the Eagles stood a pretty good chance of winning, and knowing how the fans would be, I wanted everyone around me to understand that like they were safe and that I was a non-threat to them. I don't know. I saw that tweet. It's difficult. Like I actually stood there and I wasn't like fully enjoying the win. I wasn't clapping or cheering when the Eagles scored. I didn't enjoy seeing the Cincinnatians like filing out early. That was sad to me. Normally the Bengals losing is a sad thing to me. The community really is so much more vibrant when the Bengals are good, and they were horrible today, I think. Yeah. I don't know if that's what everyone's saying, but I thought they were terrible.
Do you think part of your sadness might be because you lost the only fight you got into, and that was with the Sun?
and I knew that was happening in real time. You just know, when you're never going to get, like, it's always a surprise when you finally look in the mirror. The sunburn has had its full, like taken its full grip on your face. And that's always surprising, I guess. But I knew that was happening in real time. So
did you bargain with yourself during the process too, where I can feel myself burning? Maybe if I just sort of lean back in the shade, like of somebody else a little bit, or maybe if I go underneath the canopy for a second and go get a hot dog, that'll, recharge the shields a little bit, and then you can go back out there and keep fighting.
No, and I'm just seeing now, actually, I did have a hat on, and there are I've got the burn lines going across my face. So that's how I'm going to cover the FC Cincinnati match tomorrow in the press box, looking like a tomato on about 75% of my face, and then just strange pale skin leading up to my hairline. Sucks, man. It sucks. It's a helpless feeling. I didn't think about it because it's the sun. Mankind has been losing this battle for a millennia, two millennia, actually.
I'm choosing to take this as a moral victory for Bengals fans.
So
we got one on Pat.
When everyone sees me looking like absolute crap tomorrow at TQL, this is the price I paid for an Eagles win that I am modestly proud of. I don't know. That writer. That's
it's big talk from a city whose famous sandwich has Cheese Whiz on it.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
I wouldn't be throwing stones if I lived in that house.
Oh man. Well, that was 30 minutes burned.
Yeah, now that our 2-minute intro is over.
Amazing.
Pat, was this a good season for FC Cincinnati? And I'll cut it off at the regular season. We don't know how the postseason will go.
Yeah. It's really tough to say. It doesn't. The fact that you posed the question.
Yeah, probably answers it. But, yeah.
I mean, it's when your season touches 11 of the 12 months on a calendar. That's a really long time. So it's definitely a tale of two seasons for me. And I think that some of the numbers bear this out too. There's pre-Miazga injury and post-Miazga injury. And they stayed hot for a couple games after the Miazga injury, but then I think they settled into their reality, whatever that, however we want to describe that, after he went down. And then that was exacerbated by Hagelin's injury, in my opinion. It was arduous after that. So, and that's largely the taste you're going into the postseason with. I don't know, everyone said that after they beat the Union on decision day, everyone said this was important to build momentum and, have the winning feeling again. But, they had nothing to do with the second goal in the game. I'm just not sure how true that is.
Kevin described it as an own goal in the run of play.
I meant with the run of play, because you hear about a goal going against the run of play. I messed up the phrase. Okay,
it was with the run of play.
Thank you.
It was. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to say it. Because that is what happened. Look, 18 wins. That's great. I think you probably wouldn't call that the Red Bulls, I think, won the Supporter Shield one year with 18 wins. That's probably never going to happen again. And I don't know if you'd call that modern MLS, certainly not during the Messi era, but 18 wins is a ton in this league. But I think there are other things that take away from the shine of that, not just the second half of the year. I think the fact that they were very average, almost the definition of average by their record at home, which is where most fans see and consume the product. And, Lucho went from world beater to mere mortal over the course of the year. And I think that, when he's not, we're so used to him, like just making the spectacular, a regular occurrence, that when he isn't spectacular, it's like, what the hell is this? What's going on here? So
right.
It was a season with a lot of different flavors. I think there's plenty to be proud of, but I think clearly it's the cliched tale of two seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a stretch from the beginning of July to the end of August that if you ignore Leagues Cup happening in there, just look at the league. It's 4 losses in a row, sandwich on either side by a 6-1 victory over Inter Miami and a 4-1 victory over Montreal. It's such a weird season.
And you know what's weird too about the slide that they finally entered into, like after Miazga got hurt? I say that like that was their I think I said something to the effect of just now, like that was the reality, like that was inevitable when you lose Miazga. Maybe that's true, but the teams they lost to were weird. They were weird games. Chicago and Charlotte,
New England in there,
at home, thank you. Red Bulls on the road. Okay, the Red Bulls were like had their number this year, head to head, whatever. Yeah, you can write that off. But so I say it like there was this feeling of inevitability that it would end up looking the way that it did without Miazga. But I don't think that was necessarily true. I think there was, because they did keep winning.
Right.
After Miazga got hurt. That included the Miami game, I think.
It includes the Miami game. So this is a weird one because that San Jose game, when Miazga gets hurt, Cincinnati's losing 2-0 or 2-1. So like once he gets hurt, they had a comeback victory against San Jose, which granted wooden spoon winner, but they were losing that game with Miazga, and then came back to win without him. And then won, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of the next 5 without him. So it's like including that 6-1 victory over Inter Miami. And you think, wow, was Miazga holding this team back? Like, what are we looking at here?
Right, which I'm not suggesting in any way.
No. 100% a joke.
And they lost to Nashville 2-0 the match before.
Right.
They lost to San Jose.
Game. Such a weird game.
And then, 4-3 Toronto before that.
Kind of a weird thought. Their biggest loss of the regular season, a 2-0 defeat by Nashville. They every other loss was by 1 goal, or they at least scored a goal.
Oh yeah. And Nashville had just fired Gary Smith. That was, I think, the first game.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So
where did it all go? Where did it go wrong this year? Was it just the disjointed nature of the season where it felt like this team, there was always a momentum roadblock for this team, whether it was losing Miles to international duty, losing Miazga to injury, a Leagues Cup break that was untimely. It just always felt like this team was starting and stopping after that good run during the summer. Or did this team make mistakes when it came to how it attempted to fill the holes that it had down the stretch in the summer window and integrate those players successfully? Where do you think it is on that?
I think it's all of that. And I think what we're talking, like everything we're talking about is the frustration. There was no clear moment when it should have gone wrong. There were obvious dips in form, that some of which were prolonged looking back, but none of it, like a lot of it didn't make sense. So I think I think sometimes it didn't even make sense to the team itself. Like before the decision day match, I asked Pat Noonan, I was like, do you know what to expect from this team? Do you feel like going into this game, you know what you're going to get beyond a doubt from individuals and the collective? And he said a little bit yes, a little bit no, basically, which is startling because that was that was going into the last game of the season. So I think this was just I can't say beyond a doubt that I know why that was. There are so many unanswered, frustrating aspects of this year, and I wonder, I don't know if it was a good year when you're competing like they were for the Shield and then ultimately falling so far off the pace. And, it's like you won the season series with Columbus. You got 3 points up there. So many things happened that you would have said, if this happens before the year, well, do you think it'll be a good year or a bad year? Like you would say, yeah, sounds like we're going to be contenders for trophies again. And they were for a while, but not really down the stretch. And I think, obviously I thought the back line looked really solid, albeit against kind of a haggard Philly team on decision day. Mm-hmm. But I thought teenage Hadebe looked good. And I was kind of like, why did it take so long to get this going in this direction? I don't know.
Well, here's a different way to ask the question. I mean, Pat, you came on the show before the season and you said this is kind of a year before the year.
Yeah.
That was your prediction.
Yeah.
Were we just all wrong to consider this year as part of the championship window?
I think we were.
Was there too much?
That's a great question. I think we were. The answer is yes.
Was there too much to replace? Were there too many departures?
Absolutely.
Too much. Where even if Miazga doesn't go down, was it just never going to be the year? And that's kind of where I lean now with the benefit of hindsight. I mean, look. Yeah. You could talk about Miazga going down, but that didn't affect the striker position.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt. It didn't cause them to be really thin in the midfield. Awaziem, coming in, shouldn't be so far off of what Miazga gives you that you can't approximate what this team would have looked like with Miazga down the stretch. I mean, you have, obviously transition coming into the team.
Yeah.
Right. But how much better can you really expect Miazga to have been than Awaziem? And how much does that affect how every other position on the team played?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a really good question.
They created a hole. I mean, they had a hole at striker to start the season. Yeah. They created the bigger one. It didn't fill it. And that's got nothing to do directly with any of the injuries they had.
Yeah, I love the framing and I think it's correct. You gotta think that one of Hadebe or Awaziem would have been a midfielder or an attacker if Miazga's on the roster.
They would have signed a different player.
I would. Yeah. I mean, they were willing to spend that near DP money or whatever. Yeah.
But Hadebe is such a interesting sighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you would have assumed that the idea with the center backs through the year was that it's going to be Murphy, Miazga, Robinson, right? That's your three. So was there always a plan to find an upgrade to Ian Murphy, even if Miazga didn't go down? Or are they scrambling to upgrade and recreate, Miazga in the aggregate
the money
across the back line?
Yeah. How hard is it?
It's
Watch.
interesting.
How hard is it to play center back? Watch. Tell him. It's incredibly hard.
Switching gears a little bit in terms of acquisitions, Joe Aquini. So he's brought in on the at the 11th hour on decision day.
Yeah.
The MLSPA salary dump comes out. He's on a very large number. Now, we don't know how much that the team is paying. We don't know how much of it the loan fee is. To a certain extent, it just doesn't matter.
We do know the team is on the hook for more than Max Tam.
Right.
Based on the roster profile.
Yeah. To a certain extent, it doesn't matter because they had an open DP spot. You could pay anything. There's no long-term ramifications to it.
That big number is annualized, right? So you're paying him a slice of that for the last 7 weeks.
The team's roster profile said they can't buy him down.
Sure.
So the team is on the hook for more than Max Tam.
Yeah.
Which puts it at 1.7 ish at a minimum.
What's been your read
that
on?
Could include the loan fee or whatever. But yeah.
What's been your read on Joe Aquini? And he comes in. I don't know what the expectations were from the front office, from Albright. When they signed him, I would be willing to bet it was more than 0 goals. What's been the read on Joe Aquini? What's going on with the striker room, and why has it been so damn hard to get production out of that position group this year for this team?
Well, I'll tell you what the team has said publicly. I asked Noonan about Joe Aquini specifically a few weeks ago, and I think the phrase he used was, "I have a lot of time for Nico," and basically that it's been a good addition and, useful player, probably someone you'd see more production out of if he wasn't added late in the transfer, right? Like, because Chidozie came in early, midway, halfway through I remember writing about
he started first game of leagues, or he played in the first game of Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
So it was his first game. Yeah.
So he was able, it felt like, and it feels like he's been around for a while, when Nico came, by the time he got here, this is just the idea of, this is just how I'm remembering seeing the season in my mind's eye, but it just didn't feel like there was a ton of season left, and there wasn't. I think the team likes him. I think, I know, horseshoes and hand grenades regarding, closeness to goals versus actual goals realized. But I thought he was really denied the goal in Nashville, which would have also been a game winner potentially. Mm-hmm. And it would not at that stage in the game, but they could have won that game. And I thought it was a bad call to disallow that goal. That's out of his control. I think if he scores it, maybe he gets hot and confident and goes on a tear. We'll never know now, obviously. But I think it's worth pointing out that goal was controversially disallowed. The team certainly didn't agree with the decision, and not just because it was denied a goal. I think sometimes I think Pat Noonan's pretty accommodating when it comes to assessing like calls after games. He can, like, he'll own it if it's a bad, if it's a good, he will own things. I thought it was telling that they were pretty insistent even after the game that they thought that was a bad call. So I don't know. I don't put a ton of this on Nico. Obviously, it's been well documented, including by Chris Albright himself during his August news conference, that Nico is not the player that not that they didn't want him. Obviously, they wanted him. He wasn't the first choice player at striker. And so before I lose my train of thought and perseverate on that part of it, I just want to answer the general question about the strikers. And I've heard it suggested that maybe the biggest piece that FC Cincinnati lost season over season was Brandon Vasquez. And it's an interesting thought. I think there's relevance and importance to that question. And I think, again, horseshoes and hand grenades. FC Cincinnati did try to go out and make a gigantic splash at striker in the secondary window with the long-term, for a player that would have been in the long-term plans. And who could foresee such an outcome to that whole situation? So, I know it doesn't give people a lot of solace, but when things like that happen, and maybe enough quirky things happen like that during the course of your season, you wind up where FC Cincinnati is, And I think also, let's not let Aaron Bupenza's name be absent from this conversation.
Yeah.
He was a complete disappointment. Yep. I think you look at his track record of off-field just incidents, not even this year, like when he got here, basically post, people forget he was suspended for decision day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the crap started. And I mean, he was just a disaster. What a calamity that was looking back, And
I heard I've heard since the problems with him had already started to flare up even prior to decision day with some of the attitude that was displayed, especially after winning Shield.
So, yeah, I mean, you're expecting, you could tell last year that like there was just something off about the whole situation, like on the field and in terms of what was going on off the field. Right.
Yeah.
But I think we were all still counting on something from Bupenza, a minimum of 10 goals or, 15 maybe. And you take away that piece of the projection from FC Cincinnati's equation, and maybe I just spend too much time looking at this stuff, but I'm not totally surprised that the strikers ended up producing what they did this year,
Yeah. So like in 22, right, you had Brenner and Vasquez both.
Yeah. Incredible.
Both hit 18 goals.
Yeah.
In the season. Right. So like Acosta's clearly capable of playing with at least some strikers.
Yeah.
And you had a DP striker.
Sometimes multiple strikers at the same time.
Yeah, and you had a guy who was not on a high dollar amount.
Yeah.
At the time. He got a raise eventually, and he got a bigger raise when he moved to Monterey. Right. But they sold him for $8 million. Yeah. And they bought Bupenza before they sold Vasquez, but for $7 or whatever.
Yeah.
And had him on a DP salary. And they were apparently ready to pay 15 for Vasquez's teammate, who on the score sheet is not really, blowing him out of the water. Right. If I'm writing the checks and I ask a question, and this is something I've been thinking about, right? If I'm writing the checks and I ask the question of why didn't we just make Brandon Vasquez a DP versus, blowing a bunch of money on Bupenza and potentially double that on another guy or triple that on another guy from the English Championship. What's the answer? Like, is it, I'm not putting you on, I don't mean to like put you on the spot, but it's just something like I'm wondering, like, if you want to spend like $20 million on a guy,
I get it.
Is he going to score 18
goals?
Feels
like a very roundabout way to do business. I don't think it, I think we got to remember that, at least not publicly, Brandon's decision is his desire to move on. I mean, he had a desire to move on because he had this goal of playing in the World Cup in 2026. And he felt that it seemed like he felt that a move was necessary to realize that goal.
Yeah, but what if you put $4 million on the table for him?
Yeah.
Could they? I thought they couldn't even offer him a DP contract at the time because
why couldn't they?
For Grayson's hypothetical, you would have to have not already signed Bupenza. Yeah. Otherwise, yes, they were actually out of room.
So I just don't. I don't know beyond a doubt that the situation was totally money driven. I think he's still chasing that World Cup 2026 thing, and I think
that's fair.
I think he's. I don't know if he'd be closer to that, or if he were here, or if Monterrey has given him the sex appeal to the men's national team manager needed to get the looks that he wants. Now that we're close to getting into the cycle for 26, or whatever the cycle is going to be, So I think it's like another like worthy thought exercise would be, did Brandon actually have to go anywhere? And could were efforts made to put that money down? I mean, should they have been?
If the only way to replace him is spending $20 million in transfer fee plus whatever salary, I'm thinking I'm trying really hard to keep him.
Yeah.
Or we go into this winter with an open spot, and Monterrey is clearly active in the buying and selling of strikers market right now. Would you take Brandon Vasquez for $10 million and carry over his salary? Monterrey gets $2 million
selling
for
that
their
to ownership.
troubles.
We sold this guy for $7 and we're buying him back for 10. Like,
I mean, on the flip side, you got to be able to convince them that Josh Sargent is worth 2 or 3 times that. And I don't think you can.
It's the old sell high, buy higher move that all businessmen know at the back of their hand.
We'll play nice with Lucho.
Or we're getting a question mark for Double.
Right.
Who plays on the same team.
Yeah, right.
I mean, at a minimum, you got to make a hole in the striker room at Monterrey so that they pursue Cucho. And if you give them a little spending money in their pocket, maybe that makes that gig a little easier for them. I don't know.
There's a possibility that we could, in a roundabout way, disrupt the transfer market and have this impact the crew adversely. Right.
All I am looking for. Yes.
I'm always saying that.
Move in that direction.
I'd also buy Saint Etienne and have them heavily pursue Wilfred Nancy. That's the next club I think Carl should be looking at.
Yeah.
So to go back to Grayson's question earlier, do you still believe that this was the year before the year, or has this year raised more questions in your mind about what this team's future is?
It's a really good question, which is always the precursor response to I don't know. I do. I mean, obviously, I just want to be clear to people that, what I wrote and discussed with you guys in predicting how this year would go, I don't think I can really claim credibly that I forecasted everything.
No, take a victory lap.
All these dominoes, but more or less, I thought this would be a year of building toward a real championship push next year. I don't know if it's tough because this question of Kevin, what you started out with your first prompt, which was this a good year? I think more or less was you would hate the idea of burning a year of prime Lucho. But if it goes down like that, I don't think they envisioned burning the year. I think they tried very much to not burn this year for Lucho or for anyone else. So, I just wanted to say that. But I think, obviously there are nuances to what I predicted that have given rise to new important new questions that will have to be answered. But I think it, I think this back line is going to be really killer next year. I think it's going to be really, really good. It just didn't get here in time. Maybe it will have gotten here in time for a great playoff run. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think the back line is going to be killer next year. I think this is very much the year before the year, even though it seems like we're, sifting through all this rubble right now. I think you still have the makings of a very viable team that can, contest the Shield, go to battle with Miami over the course of 34 matches and so on.
So to reframe it all, as a rebuilding year, this has been an amazing year. For a third place finish, to acquire good assets that will be pieces of a Shield contending team next year in Yedlin or Ishano, assuming they pick him up. Hadebi and Awazim feel like locks. The reemergence of Kubo the striker, this was, for a rebuilding year, it's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I think that's a reach.
Here's the ultimate cope though. I've been working on this cope take. If this team had been in the Open Cup, if its first team had been in the Open Cup, we would have won it. Absolutely wouldn't have been close. We would have won the Open Cup.
I think that's true.
Okay, is this a hypothetical normal Open Cup or
this year's Open Cup?
This year's Open Cup, where all the good teams aren't playing.
It's us and LAFC is basically it.
Okay.
I think we win it.
I'm assuming if they do go on a playoff run here, you guys will feel much differently about the season.
Yeah, because
if they win MLS Cup, I'll feel differently.
Yeah, my next question would have been then, that sort of dovetails into this. What, given everything we've talked about for the season, how it's gone, what is the realistic expectation that we should have for the playoffs, and what will be a successful playoffs for this team, in your opinion?
Oh, your questions are always so exacting. There's no dancing out of it.
Well, Chief is an undecided voter.
Chief is very much a not undecided voter. Slide into the DMs and I'll tell you exactly who you please vote for. To help your boy out.
Yeah. I think in the context of everything we've been talking about, returning to the Eastern Conference Final, which would require more than likely require a win at Columbus, another win at Columbus. I think that would be, that would make it a great year at that point. I think regardless of going into the conference final at Miami.
Yeah. I'd agree with that 100%.
That would make it a great year. And then it's easy for everyone to kind of write off, losing to this Miami team, as annoying as that would be, on the road.
They'll beat Miami. No, there's no doubt in my mind that if it comes to it, they'll beat Miami.
The monkey paw here.
I'm more confident that they would beat Miami than they'll beat NYCFC.
I was going to say the monkey paw here is we lose to Atlanta in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure.
You're the man speechless right there. Like, this guy went toe to toe with the Sun today, and you had his mind in a pretzel right there.
It's that low Philly energy.
Yeah.
I think Pat's right in this regard, though, because the important thing is that getting back to the conference finals would be number one. Your back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. I think that's a decent accomplishment.
That's pretty solid
for a program. And number two, by beating Columbus on the way there, or whatever happens, if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it means Columbus can't.
Yeah.
And that means they can't win back-to-back, because that would be the most insufferable outcome known to mankind. If Columbus is the one that knocks off Messi and wins a second title.
Yeah, I was going to say,
they will never shut the fuck up for the rest of time.
Chief, I told you before the season that the way that you get the hell is real rivalry back onto even is by going up to Columbus in the playoffs and knocking them out.
Might be the only way. No.
You have to go there, knock them off, and you have to win the title on the way to winning the title.
Yes, but the first step is going up there and knocking them out, which is on the table.
I mean, it's on the table. I'm not going up there, though, for that game. I've learned my lesson.
No, I'm not going up there either. I'm never going to Columbus again in my life.
They always play like crap when I go to Columbus. I've never seen an entertaining match of soccer. Every match of soccer I've ever watched in the city of Columbus has been miserable, including at the last USA-Mexico game that they hosted in Columbus. That was absolutely awful.
The 2019 draw in Columbus wasn't that bad.
That was pretty awful.
The Raytheon's first match.
Really hanging on for dear life getting there.
I mean, I got solaced by laughing in crew fans' faces that, like, oh my God, how shit are you that you couldn't beat us here? Are you excited for the playoffs, Pat?
Yeah. Yes, I am for sure. The juices are flowing. I'm very excited. I'm less excited after sitting in the stadium and getting my face sunburned today to show up in public at TQL tomorrow night. But I am excited for the playoffs.
Have you considered asking Joe Aquini for one of those Batman masks to wear over your face that only part of it will show as red?
You really should.
It is funny. Halloween week.
Oh, you should just
wear a mask.
I'm stuck. I'm really stuck with this face.
We're all stuck with this. We're all stuck with our faces.
I've been since birth, but now I'm really stuck with it. I mean, I don't know if you can notice, I'm not looking in the camera. I'm looking off to the side. My TV is right here. I can't look at myself right now. It's awful.
No, I think you look great. I think you look great, Pat.
You look good.
Right. Oh, thank you.
The listeners are really missing out. That's the real loser here on this episode, is whoever is only listening to this.
Well, yeah, obviously,
which is everyone.
No, I'm excited,
except for us.
Hey, listen, I'm excited. I'm also, I'm not sure they're going to get through New York City FC, even though I think, I'm really all right. Look, I don't know how easy it is to okay.
Well, okay.
Let me form my thoughts.
Hold that thought, because we're going to talk about the game in segment 2.
Yeah.
So
we'll do
Kevin,
that in
kick
segment.
it over and then.
Yeah. But
let's
okay.
Let's jump over to segment 2. Yes, let's keep this. Pat, we run a professional ship here. Come on now. No, we'll move on over to part 2, where we will dive deeper into the actual game, or even a little bit the series of New York City FC. So we'll join you after the break here. Oh, and before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts. They have been with us from the beginning. They were one of the very first supporters of FC Cincinnati. They were our very first sponsor here at the Post. We absolutely love them. They have the best gear for all of your Cincinnati sports, Cincinnati memorabilia. You got a fun community that you're a part of. They probably have a relevant Cincy shirt for you on their website or in one of their 3 locations. They're in Oakley Hyde Park, they're in Loveland, and they're over in Fort Mitchell in Kentucky. Really, really good people. They will print on demand in their shop. If they have a design on their website that they are not, if they don't have stock in their store, they will print on demand for you. They are awesome. One thing that I promised you they will never have stock of, but absolutely do sell, are the Post shirts. They have shirts from us. We have made designs that are up on the website. You can find a link to them in the description of this episode. Go check them out in person, and if you tell them which design you want printed on a shirt right then and there, they'll do it for you. It's great, and I know it's great because I've been able to do it myself. Really good folks. And hey, while you're there picking up Post merch or Bengals merch or anything else, you drop this code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, get 10% off your next order. Again, the promo code is ThePostCincy. 10% off your next order for anything from Cincy Shirts. It's an awesome, awesome deal. Click the link in the description below as well for links to our merch. Otherwise, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, listener, for using that code. All right, and we're back. And
you see, you have to take the break because that's where we sell things, and we don't, we keep a track of this. We keep a chart, and we don't get our gold star if we forget to take a break. And Kevin has to go in and just sort of chop the thing midway through.
Yeah,
to insert the ad break.
It's a little awkward. I have to
I get a piece
him out.
as a co-host. I get a piece of whatever.
Yeah, if you buy a shirt off Cincy Shirts, you can get 5% off or whatever.
If you
use the Post Cincy.
Were you guys at the Shirt Faced release?
I did not get to make it there.
I was just wondering.
I was really happy to see our 2 financial sugar daddies get together and work together. So that was really nice.
Yeah. And before I forget, Pat, did you give yourself a round of applause for being part of this award-winning podcast as the most frequent recurring guest on the postcast?
Pat won 2 awards this year
for the award.
That's
obviously.
True.
Pat won for best. Pat. We never gave Pat his flowers for winning best MLS journalist.
Oh my God.
MLS beat writer, I think.
A fellow Favi winner, Pat Brennan, beat out Laurel, who actually made it onto the postcast before you since you won this award by 1%. Pat, I mean, describe to
Pat,
us.
you were on the road in Philly.
I know.
Actually doing reporting. Crazy, man. Yeah. But how much has your life changed since you've won the Favi?
I hate myself a little bit.
Does your boss know you won the Favi?
I doubt it.
I would have absolutely sent it to them. Say, hey, boss, isn't this funny? LOL. And then
there are scenarios. There are very real scenarios this offseason where I will bring that.
Good.
There's a non-zero chance that happens.
Well, as a subscriber, let me know who I need to call.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the Favis. That was
it's a prestige. It's a prestigious club we all find ourselves in, I think.
Oh yeah. No, this is special.
This might actually be the largest. This might actually be the largest gathering of Favis in history.
Yeah.
How many people host Corner of the Galaxy? I mean, that is the question.
Does Kevin Baxter? I want to get the name.
I don't know what Corner of the Galaxy is. Just Favi mentioned it as last year's winner.
They won last year. They obviously covered the LA Galaxy. I say obviously.
Sure. I figured that was out.
Obvious. I think.
I thought it was an astronomy podcast.
Right. Although most fans really like this one. Yeah. I think that one of their co-hosts, or at least a Pat Brennan-esque, very regular contributors, Kevin Baxter, who is a sports columnist who does a pretty good job of covering.
He does
the Galaxy for the LA Times. Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't even be in this category then.
They're definitely one of the more professional of the outlets.
Man, how much must they hate losing to us?
They should not be competing with us. That's insane.
I don't think they're an actual LA
it's unfair
Times
to us if you
podcast,
think about it.
to be clear. So yeah.
Speaking of newspapers, I don't subscribe to.
It is like crazy. You like look at like other podcasts for like other teams, and it's like, oh yeah, we're like on the radio.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what the fuck? What are we doing?
How do we get on the radio?
I've thought about
how do we get a Kevin Baxter?
I've wondered if I could approach, or if you guys could approach with your body of work, go to the station manager for ESPN 1530 or 700 or whatever the hell, and ask for be like, what is your most challenging, least profitable 2-hour block?
Give us that 2 to 4 a.m. on Sundays, baby.
Yeah. Would you do that? Would you there's no way you're getting on the air before 1 a.m.
Right.
Give
me the truck and bozos slot.
Yeah. And would you do it? Well, because also I think, does ESPN 1530 not pull in like national?
Yeah, they go national if they're not on regular programming.
Right. So it's like, what would be the harm in this? Would be if in this hypothetical, what would be the harm in trying?
I think we could fit that coast. Is Coast to Coast FM still on?
I don't know. I just want to be competing with Art Bell, the UFO guy.
That's Coast to Coast.
Is that Coast to Coast? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want to knock him off the air.
We could do that. That's actually what I want to do.
Right. No, but here's the thing. Yeah,
I'd rather do that than the stupid soccer
bullshit. Soccer and ancient alien hypotheses.
I mean, we went 15
Let me do
minutes.
cryptozoology.
Yeah. Pat, we went like 15 minutes deep on sovereign citizens the other day and never explained what sovereign citizens were. I had somebody actually ask me like, well, so what were you guys talking about? I was like, we never stepped back and explained it.
But if we were on 700, they would already know because like half of them self-identify.
It's the target demo.
Maybe I meant 550.
550, yes. The 700s.
There exactly 2/4 of the people on this recording session right now have done multiple appearances on 700 WLW, unless I miss my guess. I had a radio show in college, though. How much more different can that be?
I mean, look, we can edit down the podcast. That's not a problem.
You guys can clean this. You can clean this shit up.
Yeah, we can clean it a little bit. I had a college radio show with a fraternity brother, and we missed the meeting where they assigned time slots.
Oh,
and so we were Monday nights from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. And because it was a college radio station, we were slotted in to play all punk rock music, and none of us know punk music. So
nice.
We just sort of like got a bunch of punk CDs, played them at a low volume, and just did talk radio for 2 hours. And we weren't set up to take phone calls on the air, so we just had people call the station phone and held it up to the microphone with no delay. We were flying without a parachute.
I had a joke about punk rock music, but it's too spicy.
Hey.
It's across the line, and I don't want to offend punk rock fans because I know that there are people that listen. I know for a fact there are people that listen to this
that soccer punk rock crossover
that like punk music, and they can be so whiny. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna touch it.
Plus, they all dance like they're just picking up change off the floor.
There you go. Subscribe to the
soccer,
Patreon.
NYCFC.
Yeah, subscribe to the Patreon for the spicy punk jokes. Pat, is FC Cincinnati going to advance from this round one?
I don't know. And it's crazy because I like this matchup. Decision day was actually fun, whereas last year I think I spent the entirety of it like pontificating to myself about Aaron Bupenza and what could have possibly gone wrong. And now I look back at me and think you're such an idiot.
It all went wrong. The answer was everything. Everything went wrong.
So, yeah. Decision day was interesting this year. For most of the night, for the East Coast games anyway, it looked like we were going to get Charlotte. And I thought that was for sure the death knell for this season. I thought there's go back to Charlotte, kill me. That's awful. What a horrible matchup.
Yeah, that would have been brutal.
And I thought it would have been in Charlotte's interest to try to keep it that way. But instead, they went for it against DC United, won, got themselves a higher seed, but not necessarily a better matchup. And FC Cincinnati got a better matchup too. But I still don't know. Look, I'm not like too terribly afraid of NYCFC. Under Pat Noonan, they've had this New York team's number. I'm not too concerned about the last matchup at Red Bull Arena.
Yeah.
I'm just what I am concerned about is that FC Cincinnati is not great at home. When they need to win at home, which they will obviously on Monday, tomorrow, they can be tight. We have seen them play tight when they fall behind at home this year. And then like the biggest, I guess that's the biggest question mark for me in the series, like which version of FC Cincinnati shows up in game one. But kind of narrowly secondary to that are my concerns about the playing surface for game two. I think I told Pat, I asked him what he thought about it, but I gave like quite a lengthy preamble to my question. I asked him about it.
There.
Yeah. You pulled a Kevin is what we call that.
Yeah, I know. I can't judge, but I straight up said, I thought the game you guys played at Citi Field in 2022 was the worst playing surface that Noonan's FC Cincinnati have ever played on in this league.
Yeah.
And I think that's an unequivocal fact. There's just some things that you didn't see on the camera that night, I'm assuming, if you watched on TV. Anytime the ball was in New York's half of the field, which was not often, Roman Celentano was stomping out his penalty area, trying to keep it somewhat decent, flat. When I think I tweeted about this too, when the halftime whistle sounded, no fewer than 1 dozen groundskeepers didn't like take to the field or walk onto the field. They rushed. They were like panicked. They ran onto the field with urgency and, began poking and prodding and pulling at the turf, trying to get it back to some semblance of whatever they tried to achieve when they first laid it down. So I don't know if it'll be worse, if it'll be better, if it will be playable. What I do know is that it's substandard at its best when they play on these baseball fields. I imagine they could probably make it a little bit more stable because they don't have to worry about when or if they dig this field up, because the Mets season is obviously over now. But I just don't think you're going to get anything out of that game if you're FC Cincinnati, because New York is well drilled in playing in these crappy conditions. And I think they've won one game on a baseball field in their MLS era.
Right.
There were some great times at Louisville Slugger Field back in the day. But and I think because knowing that game two could be such a you just don't know what you're going to get, and you don't know if you're going to be able to play on that thing. Yeah. So I think that puts more pressure on tomorrow night. And that makes the pressure on this team to win Monday night is so great. And I don't feel great about that. So yeah, it's all a long-winded way of saying, I don't know. I think they should, like I said, it's a better matchup. I think it's as good of a matchup as you were going to get given which teams were in play on decision day. And they can be happy about that, but now you have to go out and do it. And I think if they find a way to lose tomorrow, they will not come back for a third game.
That feels.
Are we still very much anti this playoff format? Because people forget that it's a joke. It's a freaking joke.
We're going to look back at this and think about the 3-game series whenever it changes, because inevitably it'll change again. Because this, just it's what this league does. Yeah. We will look back on the 3-game series in the same way that today many people look back on the run-up penalty kick.
Yes.
Like a cheap gimmick that added nothing. Some people
they should bring back.
Some people say they like it in a really tongue-in-cheek way, but everyone agrees like this is stupid.
I really like it.
No one thought.
I really like it.
Fine.
No, I'm with you, Pat.
Wait,
they
which
will
do you
be
like?
embarrassed by it.
Which do you like? Which do you like? The 3-game series? Or
the running PKs are electric.
So here's what I like about the running PKs.
They're so American. I love them to death.
I think that the PK as it's currently constructed is like too much of a match swinger. And like too often the PK, the effect on the match is totally way outsized of like whatever led up to it.
Yeah.
And I also don't think that, and Pat, I'm going to preface this by saying you vociferously disagree with this. I don't think MLS referees are good enough to have like PKs as part of the game.
Wow.
Okay. Like I just don't want to put this much
PK
power.
Privileges.
I just don't want to put this much power in their hands. So like if there's a way that we can construct an infraction, like a penalty kick that is less of a gimme, I'm in favor of it. And then I think that like a running up penalty is a possibility.
So what would you have to do then to get the penalty kick as it exists today?
I would take it out of the game. Maybe for Dogso.
Okay. All right.
Dogso in the box, maybe.
Oh, I do agree. The impact of a penalty kick is totally outsized. Absolutely.
Right. This is all a great preface to the fact that for those that haven't been watching the playoffs yet, I don't know if at least one game's gone, but that they go directly to PKs at the end of 90 minutes on each of these games, and it's 2 points for a PK win.
Nope.
No.
It's a full
Win's
win,
a win.
which is what I hate. So like last night, Galaxy beat Colorado 5-0. Right?
Should be the end of Colorado's chances.
Colorado
do not deserve a second chance.
Right. Colorado could take the next 2. I'm not saying they will, but hypothetically, Colorado could take the next 2 games 0-0 and win in penalties and advance.
Despite never scoring a goal from open play.
Despite never scoring a goal, not winning a game in regulation, and losing 5-0 in the aggregate. I think at the very least, if they're going to do these 3-game series, they should do the MLS Next Pro point distributions and make it first to 5. So if you win a game in regulation, that's 3. If you win a game in regulation, it's 3. If you win a game in regulation, it's 3. If you win a game in penalties, it's 2. If you lose a game in penalties, it's 1. So if the team wins game 1 in regulation,
it's 3.
Loses game 2 in penalties.
That's 1-4.
That team that won in
4-1.
penalties has to take game 3 in regulation, or they don't advance.
I mean, this is all going in one direction, and it's the eventual introduction of an MLS Cup Centenario with the groups.
I'm legit surprised we haven't done that yet.
Every team qualifies. the regular season is completely.
Well, actually, if you remember,
should have to win a
Pat,
game in regulation to advance, in my opinion.
before the best of 3, they were kicking around the idea of group stages for the playoffs. There were going to be 2 groups of 4.
Yeah.
And then it was going to go into a 2-game playoff.
Oh, trust me, we can get weirder with it with playoff format. Like do not underestimate this league's capability to find the strangest solution to the most mundane of problems.
Grayson, to make your hypothetical worse, it has to be the 5-0 victory in LA, then a 1-1 victory in Colorado, so that the Galaxy get an away goal, so that in any other format, Galaxy would have advanced, but Colorado advances only in MLS's very bizarre winner take all best of 3. God.
Must win game on Monday. That's exciting.
Well, here, I've got a fun fact for everybody. In the Pat Noonan era, they have played New York City FC 8 times in competitive matches. That's including 1 U.S. Open Cup and 1 Leagues Cup East Group 1 match. Pat Noonan's only loss to NYCFC was on October 2nd this season, 3-2.
Also, Pat Noonan as head coach has never lost the first game of a tournament.
Oh,
I like that.
Good stats.
So I will ask you this, Pat, because we talked about this on the show last week, and I want your on our last episode, and I want your take.
Yeah.
At the last episode, on the last match of the season on decision day, Pat Noonan ran out yet another completely unique lineup.
Yeah.
To make it so that every match that they have played this year, there has been a unique lineup. Will Pat Noonan continue the streak, and will we have a brand new, never before seen lineup for the FC taking the field tomorrow?
This is partially a math game at this point because there's only so many combinations, and I don't know what that number is.
There's more than you think.
Okay.
Someone in the Discord ran the math.
I was just trying to find that number.
Kidding. Of course.
I was just trying to find that number.
It's a big number.
I love this fan base.
In the hundreds of trillions, yes.
No, it's in the millions, I think.
It was trillions of numbers.
In that case, I mean, the numbers are in our favor. Yeah, absolutely.
Because where you play, where you start matters.
And you can call up MLS Next Pro, guys.
Quick math, it looks like there are 26 healthy players. So just using the FCC players, it would be 19,275,223,968,000 possible lineup combinations.
I think
incredible.
Right under that is the MLS Next Pro possible additions as well, which I think is where the hundreds of trillions came in.
I love this fan base so much. Of course, someone ran the math on that. So yeah, I mean,
we're counting commas. Give Chief a moment.
Yeah, no. So what's after trillions? Quintillion is
quadrillion.
Quadrillion. So the actual number, if you include MLS Pro potential call-ups, 3 quadrillion, 679 trillion, 491 billion, 984 million, 537,600 possible roster combinations.
Awesome.
Nobody tell that to Pat Noonan.
The heat death of the universe will emerge before Pat can run that many laps out.
Wait, Chief, before we move on, please shout out whoever did that math. They deserve to have
I was going to say.
You don't have your real name in the Discord. Sled Camera Hill.
Okay.
So 3 awesome things if you're going to make a TikTok in the winter.
Shout out to that person.
I'm assuming that's a Citizen Kane reference.
Or they work at Perfect North.
Sure.
I think they'll win tomorrow.
That's the spirit.
I have my doubts, but
mean, what's the point of doing all this for 2 episodes a week if you're going to predict a loss in the opening round of the playoffs?
Yeah, that's no freaking fun.
Right?
Pat, are
At
the
some
two
point,
best
one of my
strikers,
sports teams needs to win, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Are the 2 best strikers on this team midfielders? Is Kubo and Orishano as good as it gets up top right now?
Kubo, yes.
Now, I understand I'm insulting Kubo by calling him a midfielder, but
No. I mean,
He just is.
What is he really?
He might not even be able to answer that question at this
Yeah.
point.
well, we asked him that question and he said he's a striker.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah. What does this team have? 3 10-goal scorers?
Orishano, Kubo,
Kubo and Lucho. Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Decent for a
Galaxy
team without
is-
like a Top Gun striker, you know?
Right.
I mean, Kubo, I think Kubo's been great this year.
Yeah.
Was this a tongue-in-cheek question that I've taken seriously?
No, it was a real question.
it's a real question. Like,
Yeah. I don't know.
The team has
Kelsey-
25 strikers on the roster.
Right.
and the 2 best aren't strikers.
And that was the lineup that played decision day. It was the 2
Yeah.
strikers up top were Orishano and Kubo, and Orishano said that he'd be down to do more.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, you would think the decision day lineup is going to inform at least a little bit of what we'll see tomorrow night. So, yeah, TBD on Orishano. I'd like to see more of that. I think it's really interesting. I wonder how many of these superfluous, like positionally superfluous players you can have on this roster, because it seems like Kubo and Orishano can play anywhere, but it would be nice to give them like one task
A home
to perform, you know,
Oh,
and they can just focus on that for an entire season and be great at it.
Mhm.
in
Or
many ways, Kubo is just sort of the embodiment of the modern workplace, where you have to be flexible, you have to be willing to do whatever the boss asks you to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're always going to be looking for just that forever home, where it's just like, I don't want to have to think about this. I don't want to have to be called into a meeting,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's congratulations. Now you're learning how to do, now you're learning how to do Adobe Creative Suite. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. I was gonna say Kubo's the spreadsheet guy. You never want to be the spreadsheet guy.
No.
You never want to be the guy who raises his hand that one time and says, like, yeah, I can do Excel.
yeah, I can throw
Because
it
you're
there.
going to do Excel forever.
Don't
I know what
ever
a pivot
do that.
table
Yes.
That was central midfield
Yeah.
for Kubo for years.
I can play
Kubo was just
central.
making spreadsheets.
They checked his resume when Ron Jans and Jared Nijkamp were around, or when Japs Tom was around. It's like, well, he listed here proficient in Microsoft Excel,
Yeah.
so I mean, he'll be great. I lied, man. I just needed the job.
But you could start to build a team of, Orishano, Kubo, I think Yamil Assad and DeAndre Yedlin fall into this camp as well,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, maybe we just actually are trying to build a team of 11 Yuya Kubos or 10 Yuya Kubos and a goalkeeper. Like that is the ideal MLS lineup is
Yeah.
11
So-
of those guys in Weston McKennie.
In this first round playoff, Pat, over under 0.5 penalty stops by Roman.
Oh, you.
That's the perfect
No, I
answer.
had to explain this to somebody. It's like,
Including in penalty shootouts.
including in penalty shoots. I had to explain this to someone that my expectation for when FC Cincinnati takes a PK is the goal is big, the keeper is little. There's no excuse to ever miss a PK. And my standard when we're defending one is, how can you never save this? This is absurd. I get that it makes no sense, but it feels like we don't stop a lot of PKs.
Right. No, I know that's how you feel.
Oh, I'm aware that you're a dipshit. Yes.
No. I didn't mean that. Let's see. How many did he make against in the first round shootout? The series.
He stopped
the series
one.
clincher.
He stopped one against Red Bulls.
1 of 13 or something. 1 of 10.
One of like 9, I think.
Okay,
I don't think the keepers took, right?
But I think it was on the 10th one because he would have gone next if he hadn't stopped it.
Yeah.
I think it was 10.
And then in Leagues Cup, he technically had a stop, but I think it was because somebody skied a shot or hit one off the post.
Yeah. No, I know he doesn't have a great record there.
You don't have to actually answer
this. No, I will. Well, I'm going to say over. Because
there you go.
One is, sorry, I had to really think about that. What the yes or no question. Yes, I think he will make one save.
Do you think it would be more or less effective if a keeper just started diving left every time?
Well, that's
just I'm going left no matter what. I'm not an ambi turner.
Right.
What if you stay central?
Ooh,
just
you
stand
never
there.
dive.
Just never move.
That was always what I did when I played FIFA against another human. As opposed to the computer. Obviously they would pick up on this eventually, but they're going to guess, like they'll be undecided about where they're going to shoot before each take. But inevitably I will make a save if I keep going left, say, and eventually he will decide to shoot in that direction. And therefore I will make a save, kind of a numbers game a little bit. And actually I took a semester off from college a year into school for some personal stuff. And as I went back to my old high school to coach the high school soccer team as an assistant. And we found ourselves in the playoffs in a shootout situation that we had not drilled for. We had never practiced taking or saving PKs. And I told the 10th grade goalkeeper, dive right each time.
Hell yeah. How'd it work?
Did it
we
work?
Lost. And he didn't follow my instructions. And we lost. But it just goes to show you that, like Football Manager, some of the lessons we learn in these bullshit video games can be applied to real life.
I like it.
That's why I always check the fridge for a health pack whenever I'm in somebody's house.
Always go behind the waterfall. There's always a secret there. Yeah. Oh, God. Are we at predictions time? Is there anything else we need to squeeze out of this?
Mercifully.
Yeah, I think we're at the end here. I'll throw a prediction out for the Monday night game that FC Cincinnati will win 2-1 in regulation and will cruise their way to thriving in the round 1 of the MLS Cup playoffs. Who wants the next prediction?
Pat, as our guest.
Pat wants the next prediction.
He saves his predictions for the paper.
No.
Ooh, predict a loss here and predict a win in the paper, then you'll always be right.
What's you really think? I think 2-1 is I don't think this team has a clean sheet in them, but I think they will finally answer the bell at home, which they haven't done in a while. And I think it'll be a relatively comfortable 2-1 win.
I'm going to say that they win 1-0. I think that while I usually would agree that they don't have a clean sheet in them, this format lends itself so much to the road team just bunkering for PKs.
Yeah.
You really have nothing to lose by playing negative on the road. So I think that it'll probably be a tight affair. And I think it'll be an individual moment of brilliance from Luca or Lucho that scores the only goal.
I like it. Grayson, before you give your prediction, I forgot one tiny little piece here. NYCFC head coach Nick Cushing is currently the target for the Arsenal women's team for their head coaching vacancy. So maybe his head will be turned.
I don't know if it hurts. That definitely doesn't help, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, right.
Take anything we can get.
Yep. Yeah. All right, Grayson. Now with that new information.
Yeah. So, Pat brought up the possibility of, NYCFC being a better matchup than Charlotte. And we've talked about how bad the team has been the latter half of the season. And, is this the year before the year? Is it just not a year where everything came together and in whatever kind of way? They used a different lineup every day of the season, every match they played this year. So like there's been a lot of bad stuff, and there's been a lot of pessimism from some people on this podcast. I'm not going to say who. But a playoff it's a different thing, and they're better than nearly every team that they play, at least based on the players that are going to be on the field. Right. And they shouldn't care if they play Charlotte or NYCFC or basically anybody. Like the opponent should not matter to this team. This team, our expectation for this team is that no matter who they play, and I'll say that as a general, although I understand that there are some teams that would also say this, and you could also say this about, that no matter who they play, they should think about themselves as the favorite, as the team that's in charge, as the better team. They're going to have the best, as David Goss said on Wednesday. I don't know if you know this, Pat, but David Goss was on our podcast on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Just
our award-winning podcast.
They're going to have the best player on the field against any team except Miami. And then that's arguable at best.
I'll argue it.
And so I guess, just wipe the season out, right?
Yeah.
It's a new season.
They're the third seed. They're playing a team that is not as good as them. I don't care what anybody says. They should go into this game with all the confidence in the world. They're going to win this game 3-0.
Oh, baby. I'm in.
I'm ready.
Sure.
I'll run through that wall.
I love it. Oh God.
I agree with everything you just said.
Every single person predicted a win. So you know what that means, folks. It's gonna be a victory.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this before the game, good. If you're listening to it afterwards, why?
Unless that means we got a big win and you're just going back to enjoy all the vibes.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's fair.
Because I'm jealous of Pat right now in this regard, is that he gets to go and he gets to consume all of the media about the Birds. He gets to listen to podcasts, read the news stories, whereas I will not be able to turn the television on when they're talking about pro football. So I'll have to see Kirk Cousins' dumb fucking face as he ran for 13 yards in the fourth quarter. It's 13 yards further than he's running a decade.
Yeah.
You have to stop. You have to stop complaining about the Buccaneers. You have won 2 Super Bowls this century.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Not that long ago.
Stop it.
I want more.
Yeah, actually,
we all want more, but you have to stop.
The Buccaneers inflicted on me the worst sports pain of my life.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is this Donovan McNabb shutting the vet down?
Yep. Absolutely.
Rondé Barber.
I was there. The stage was set. That Eagles team was in the ascendancy. It felt like it was they had been anointed. It was their time to go to the Super Bowl. And Veterans Stadium was such a special place to me. I think I was in 8th or 9th grade when this happened, something like that. And yeah, call me a sick sick, sad person, but I have compared the sadness of that game to losing a loved one. And I totally mean that. And I still mean it today.
Damn.
And yes, you get no sympathy from me.
I feel like I'm taking hate from all corners here. This is fine. Pile on.
And like the way that game started, like they scored like inside of a minute. You know, it was just the perfect day for the Eagles. It was supposed to be the perfect day, and you took that. You took that.
You personally.
God damn you.
Apparently I'm a thief of joy. Look.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers decided to wear a throwback to an era I would assume they were trying to bury and hide forever. And that feels inappropriate.
It's not lost that whenever they put those jerseys on, they play like they did when they wore those jerseys.
If you're listening to this before the game, Washington Park, 4-6 is the place to be. That's where the pregame is. Most of the supporters bars are closed on Monday, so I believe all of the supporters groups are not doing the traditional march and
great
bar
scheduling
crawl.
by MLS. Just phenomenal.
I cannot get over how stupid this scheduling is.
The schedule's awful. They put 2 games up against Sunday Night Football.
Two games up against Monday Night Football.
2 games against Monday Night Football. 1 game that kicked off at 11 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And they rushed to get Miami in on Friday, which I understand puts like the play-in team at a disadvantage because they just played. But that gives like Charlotte and Orlando and Columbus and Cincinnati more rest than Miami.
I feel like other sports go out of their way to even with television considerations. I mean, you know, the NFL is almost a TV product.
Right.
And even with TV being such a huge consideration, like they still go out of their way to make sure they are rewarding on-field performance, and the number 1 seed going into the playoffs, you know, gets everything that it deserves for having done that. I don't feel like anyone, including Miami, has been, even in the Western Conference, like, I mean, what did LA got as the, you know,
LAFC got the finished top of the West.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. But
they're playing right now. Yeah.
Yep. So they get an irregular schedule. Miami has to play a day earlier. Like no one got rewarded for anything, which I guess if you're not rewarding anyone, that is at least equal treatment, but just again, devaluing the regular season.
Yeah, I understand, you know, that Atlanta was going to have short rest no matter what, because they had the playoff, but to be like 2 days off game, that's over the top for me.
Yeah.
Like to say, like, to be like, well, they could have played better during the season and earned more rest. Well, if that's your response, why not make them play every day? Why not you play a 3-game play-in series Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they just get Sunday and Thursday off?
Yeah.
Right? Or do you agree that there is some bounds of reasonableness of how much rest a team should be required to have? And we're just talking about how much is reasonable.
Grayson, it's worse than that. They played 3 road games in 6 days. They played Saturday the 19th.
They played Saturday.
The October
Saturday,
22nd, Tuesday, Friday, 25th. What are we doing? I mean,
this whole conversation.
They had 2 starters go down injured in the first 35 minutes of that game Friday.
This reminds me of like the best analysis that I heard back in the spring when everyone was not crying. I mean, I was upset too when everyone was upset about the poor quality of the new uniforms in MLB.
Yeah.
Pablo Torre on Pardon the Interruption just cut straight to the heart of it. And it was like, if you're MLB, this is, you know, bad or whatever he said. And this makes your league look cheap. And by an extension of that, not serious. These playoffs make MLS not serious.
Yeah.
I think is the point.
Yeah.
Well, so people said yesterday, they were like, well, there's only one game late Saturday because they don't want to go up against college football. And people said that context free, as if that's an explanation for why you want to go 2 games against primetime Sunday night football in the NFL and 2 games against primetime Monday night football for the NFL, which is like, the NFL feels like a tougher opponent than college football because college football is so regional.
And they have college football during the regular season. So like, again, like if you start putting like all of the pieces that people want in an ideal schedule, which is Chief, not in cold weather, but not against college football, but abide by all FIFA dates. It's like, then we do need to be playing every 3 days from April to July or April to June. Like there's no time to get the season in if these are your constraints.
You know, to Pat's
just
point,
make a good calendar. Just make a good calendar. People that want to watch will watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's been funny about this is telling people, hey, does anyone want to go to this game on Monday? Wait, they're playing on Monday. Like right there, it's like, this is not a serious league when it's like your playoff game is on a Monday night
and
at 6:30.
And Columbus plays Tuesday.
They spent the whole season religiously sticking to Saturdays and Wednesdays, 7:30 in the local market, no matter what. We will not stagger.
I said that to someone today. They have been unflinching in the formula all regular season, and now, like,
it's Wild West.
Not only you're not just deviating from that, but you have what you have come up with is
nobody is 7:30. Nobody is 7:30. I don't think a single game has been 7:30.
Couldn't you have just put every round 1 game on Saturday at 7:30? Like, I know it's not ideal, but at least it matches what the hell we've been doing all year.
You know what else sucks is, like, let's get on with the playoffs. Let's get it over with. Now, this was eased a little bit by the fact that FC Cincinnati went to the conference final last year and had an extended run after that November FIFA window. But that November FIFA window is coming up, and it is yet another killer for this league and its postseason.
Yep.
You are sapped of momentum and interest, and you disappear except for passing mentions if your players get called up to certain national teams, you know?
Yeah, or if they deliver a well-timed pizza to someone.
Yeah, it's just, let's get on with it. I would really like to see more than 1 round completed before the November win. Obviously, that I'm just, this is kind of shaking my hand at a passing cloud.
Yeah, I think the net of it is like the playoff is that the playoffs aren't the time to worry about, like, is our sport as popular as college football and NFL football.
Yeah.
Like whatever you're going to be doing to get up to like an actual, if you were ever going to be competing against those sports for TV viewers, you're not going to figure that out between the end of the regular season and the playoffs.
Right.
Like just make a schedule that makes sense for people that are already going to watch it.
Yeah. I think be good to people that are good to you. I remember, there was an FC Cincinnati home game last year where they went up against the Reds and Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And earlier this year, they went up against at least one UC home game. Like, you're going to get I think the FC Cincinnati population is largely consistent. It crosses over. There are FC Cincinnati fans are like active members of the sports fan community here for all these teams. You know what I mean? But like your core group of fans are going to come regardless, and it appears that there's in excess of 24,000 of those people, and most nights they sell the place out regardless of whatever the hell else is going on. be it Taylor Swift or like the largest touring musical act in history, or a Major League Baseball game. So it would be cool if the people who actually care about that, instead of trying to appeal to, everyone who isn't committed to MLS, it would be nice to appeal to your core audience, because they're the ones propping this thing up right now,
Imagine if the pitch to the casual fan was, hey, become invested in this and you're treated really nice. I would
this
be
will
making
respect your time back.
Yeah, I would be making that pitch explicitly to like NBA, MLB, and NFL fans, which is like, don't you hate having to download 15 different apps to watch your team? Don't you hate local blackouts? Don't you hate? It's like one app. Just come watch MLS. You can go on vacation to Europe. You can go take a safari. You can bring your same app with you and you can watch the games. Like, we're not blocking out anywhere. I don't know. That'd be my pitch. And then, likewise, easy watching times. Like 7:30 local kickoff would have been nice for game one. Then here's your advantage. You put all the home teams Saturday, 7:30, which should have been yesterday at time of recording. That's game one. Game two is the Wednesday match. So it's short rest, but the road team gets the shitty home match. And then you get the Saturday for the game three if you need it.
That's rewarding the higher seed for sure.
Yeah. It's short rest, but you'd assume the better team is deeper and they'd be able to handle it. So, I don't know.
Anything's better than this.
Yes. Oh, God. Chief, I think that's a podcast. But before we end this, do you have the team that we hate in mind before we
do.
Okay, good.
I got to apologize. I'm sorry, Pat. I didn't mean to ruin your 8th grade.
Thank you.
On behalf of, that team.
I'm sorry. 21 years later, I accept your apology.
There we go. You know who we never apologize to? San Diego. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to the show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.